Hey book buddies, how's it going? What you reading? I'm Eric from Lonesome Reader, and you want to know about exciting new books being published in July for the first time, don't you? Well, you've come to the right place. I've got a big new stack of books that are all being published within the UK for the first time this month, and I'm gonna go through them all and give you little summaries of what they're about and why I think they're so exciting and why I'm so interested in reading them. And I've actually already read a few of these books, so I can really vouch for them. The first is a book that I'm currently reading, and that is called The Tryst by Monique Roffey, and this is published by Dodo Inc, who are a really exciting small independent press that only started like a year and a half ago. They're publishing really cutting-edge fiction, and I've been particularly excited to read this novel because I've read a couple of Monique Roffey's novels before. She wrote a book called The White Woman on the Green Bicycle and House of Ashes, and that last book, House of Ashes, was a really devastating, powerful novel. This novel is a very different kind of book. I'm about a third of the way through this book, and it basically follows this couple who go out drinking one night and they meet a woman there, and there's a sexual tension between all three of them. And it follows each of their perspectives as this affair comes about. But it explores really deeply sexuality and the sexual imagination, which actually isn't surprisingly isn't covered all that much in fiction, I don't think. Or at least it's not covered as much as it should be because of how much it consumes our daily existence. You know, depending on what kind of sexual person you are. So I'm really into this book right now. State of Freedom by Neel Mukherjee, and this is published by Chatto and Windus. I've read the first section of this novel, the first 30 or so pages. It's very striking and powerful. A man takes his boy on a sort of tourist trip and something really horrific and odd and twisted happens. So I have to say I'm a little bit biased because Neel Mukherjee is actually a friend of mine. The other night we went out for fried chicken and cocktails, but his last novel, The Lives of Others, was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, so he's a really major talent. And this novel is already getting really strong buzz, so might have Booker potential again. I'm really looking forward to finishing this soon. Next is a book that I just finished reading called When We Speak of Nothing by Olumide Popoola, and it is published by Cassava Republic, who are another really interesting small independent press who focus exclusively on publishing African writers or writers of African descent. I'm going to talk about this novel more in depth in part 2 of my June reading wrap-up, but just briefly, it takes place in 2011. There's two boys who live in North London who are best friends. One of those boys discovers his African father and goes to Nigeria to try to reconnect with him, and it follows their separate lives in London and Nigeria over the course of a few weeks as they undergo massive changes in their lives. It's a really striking novel about friendship and queer youth culture. The novel is written in a lot of slang and sort of text messages that go back and forth between the boys. But it's also about the English riots which happened in 2011 when racial tensions were really simmering in London and around the country. So if you want a highly engaging novel about the world we live in now and youth culture that feels like they don't have a voice, I'd highly recommend this. Tinman by Sarah Winman is published this month by Tinder Press. I talked about this novel already in part 2 of my May reading wrap-up, and also during the time I spent at the Gladstones Library. It is just a gorgeous novel, and that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. Can You Hear Me by Elena Barbelo. This is published by Two Roads Books this month. I talked about this in part 1 of my May reading wrap-up. It's a psychological thriller. It takes place in a small Italian town in the 70s, I think, and it's about a teenage boy who's sort of coming of age and discovers that his father is a monstrous being who has kidnapped a girl, and part of the narrative follows the father as he's driving this girl out to a remote location. It's very eerie and unsettling, but really psychologically insightful as this boy tries to reconcile his feelings about his father when his father is this horrible, conflicted person. The Upstairs Room by Kate Murray-Browne. This is published by Picador Books. This novel has been getting such good buzz. I've heard from multiple people how great and really gripping this novel is. It's another thriller novel, and it takes place when a family purchase a 4-bedroom townhouse in East London, which I can tell you, having just moved myself, isn't cheap. They think it's their dream house and they start settling in, but then strange things start happening and they get glimmers of information about the family that lived there before them. It's been compared to Little Stranger by Sarah Waters and also Elizabeth is Missing by Emma Healy, and I loved both of those books, so that really drew me in and really made me want to read this novel. Gather the Daughters by Jennie Melamed, and this is published by Tinder Press. This is another debut novel. It takes place on a remote island where people are raised to fulfill quite like traditional gender roles, where women are raised to have a family and stay at home, and the men are raised to be sort of domineering and, you know, really stereotypically masculine types. But before people properly come of age, they're allowed to just run riot and go out into the wilderness to enjoy life however way they want it. And this is the story about a girl who is doing that and she sees something which she's not supposed to see. It all sounds quite cryptic, but I think it's about the cult life on this island. Comparisons have been made with Emma Cline's The Girls and Emily St. John Mandel's novel Station 11, and those are two other books that I really loved. So I'm definitely intrigued to read this novel, and I think it has a really striking, beautiful cover as well. The Hours Before Dawn by Celia Fremlin. This has been republished by Faber and Faber because this is a novel which was actually first published in 1958, I think. It's been hailed as a classic psychological thriller, a classic mystery novel. I seem to be talking about a lot of thriller novels, but I guess just in summer a lot of thrillers get released. But I've actually never heard of this author or this novel, so I'm really intrigued to try it. It's about a woman named Louise who has a young family, and all she wants is to get some sleep because her baby keeps her up. She grows increasingly concerned because her husband is drawn to a new lodger that they have, and I think it gets that tension of what's really going wrong in her life and what is just in her head. Evening Primrose by Kopano Matlwa. I'm not sure how you pronounce her surname. That's her name right there. This is a short novel published by Scepter Books. It's about a young woman in post-apartheid South Africa, and when she starts working in the medical profession, she realizes how broken the National Healthcare Service is and how insidious the racism within her country still remains. So I think this sounds like a really powerful voyage of discovery. The Party by Elizabeth Day, and this is published by Fourth Estate. The proof copy just says on the front, "Are you invited?" I'm particularly intrigued to read this novel because the great booktuber Britta Bowler from The Second Shelf has already read it and highly recommends it. It's a novel that's about privilege and class and friendship. It's about a young man who gets accepted to a very upper class school, and he feels like something of an outsider in this class, and he meets a friend who sort of introduces him to the party atmosphere and how to conduct himself and dress, and they become lifelong friends, but this friend of his has a secret, and there's a big party later on in their lives where I think this secret might come out, or maybe it doesn't. So it's an intriguing premise and subject matter, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Do Not Become Alarmed by Maile Meloy. This is published by Viking Books. Maile Meloy is a really insightful writer. I've read her novel called Liars and Saints, which I thought was really powerful, and also last year a film was made of a few of her short stories called Certain Women. It's a novel about two couples, I think, that take their families on a cruise holiday to South America. And when they land in South America, their children go missing and things get a bit chaotic. On the copy I've been sent, I like how it says on the cover, "The sun is shining, the sea is blue, the children have disappeared." And it's also quite fun. I've been sent this fake ticket to go to South America, which is, I think, a cute little, like, edition that they've sent in with proof copies. But aside from any gimmicks, I think Maile Meloy is a really strong writer, like I said, so very intrigued to read this. And finally is a novel called To Die in Spring by Ralf Rothmann. This is published by Picador. I'm particularly intrigued to read this novel because I so recently read Rachel Seffert's novel A Boy in Winter, which takes place during World War II, and this is another novel which takes place during World War II. It's the year 1945 in the north of Germany, and there's two boys who live on a dairy farm who are forced to volunteer for the SS even though it seems like the war is dying down. One of them is drawn into doing horrific work, and it becomes about the moral dilemma of following orders or sticking to your principles, but then fearing for your life. So even though I'm sure it'll be a bit of a downer, I think this sounds like a really powerful novel. So those are the books being published in July that I'm really looking forward to. Which have sparked your interest the most? Let me know in the comments below, and if you click show more, I'll post a full list of all these books and links to where you can buy them. So thanks for watching. I hope your summer is going well, and happy reading, everyone.